This Notebook LM video examines the dangers of blind trust and how naivety can lead to betrayal and exploitation. Trust is essential for human connection, but when placed without evidence or questioning, it becomes a fatal weakness. Naivety is not just innocence, it is a failure to understand the complex motives that drive people.
Today we're digging into a danger that says all this time, but somehow feels more urgent than ever in our crazy, connected world. And that's the fatal mistake of misplaced trust. It's a vulnerability that has literally brought down empires and destroyed lives, and we're about to figure out why it's so important to get a handle on it right now.
And let's start with this, an ancient warning from the prophet Jeremiah. It's intense, right? But it's a powerful reminder that putting absolute, unquestioning faith in other people, who are just as flawed as we are, has always been seen as a recipe for disaster. This really sets the stage for everything we're about to unpack.
And there it is. That's the core of our whole conversation today. That ancient warning perfectly captures a very modern problem. See, the mistake isn't trusting people. We have to trust people to function. The mistake is trusting blindly, without asking questions, without any real evidence. That's the weak spot we're going to be looking at.
So, that leads us to the big question, doesn't it? In our world of deep fakes, charismatic influencers, and AI that seems to know everything, how does this old piece of wisdom hold up? Why is it more critical than ever to understand the danger of blind trust?
So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the basic risk that comes with trust itself. Then we'll get really specific about what fatal mistake means. After that, we'll see this play out in 3 acts: literature, history, and modern tech. Then we're going to get into the psychology of why we fall for this stuff. And finally, we'll talk about our best defense: thinking critically.
All right, first up, the peril of trust. Look, we're built to be social. We need to connect, we need to cooperate. It's in our DNA. But that instinct, as essential as it is, comes with a huge risk. Every single time we decide to trust someone, we're making ourselves vulnerable. Now, to really get this, we have to be super clear on what we're talking about. This isn't just about being innocent. It's about a very specific kind of ignorance, one that can have absolutely devastating results. So let's define our terms.
So what is naivety, really? It's not just not knowing things. It's a failure to understand what really makes people tick, the complex, messy, and sometimes selfish motivations we all have. It's like trying to navigate a city with a map that doesn't show any of the one-way streets or dead ends. It's a huge blind spot to human nature.
And if naivety is the mindset, blind trust is the action that comes from it. It's jumping out of the plane without checking for a parachute. What's really crucial here is the absence of critical thinking. It's deciding to ignore the warning signs, to not ask the hard questions.
And this is where it all clicks. On one hand, you have naivety. That's the mindset, the worldview that just ignores how complicated people can be. And on the other, you have blind trust. That's the action, the actual leap into the void that's based on that faulty worldview. One is a way of seeing the world. The other is a potentially catastrophic choice.
Okay, so we've got the definitions down. Now let's see what happens when the rubber meets the road. We're going to look at 3 powerful examples that show just how this fatal mistake plays out, from a classic play to a modern-day headline.
We'll start with one of the most famous stories of all time. Juliet's words here just capture the whole problem perfectly. Her passionate, naive love for Romeo completely blinds her to the brutal reality of their family's war, and it just sets the stage for total disaster.
Think about it. Juliet puts all her faith in this really complicated, kind of crazy plan from Friar Lawrence. She doesn't question it, doesn't think about a backup plan, and the result? A terrible domino effect, where one single point of failure, one letter that doesn't get delivered, leads directly to both of their deaths.
Now we jump from fiction to a heartbreakingly real event. This number, it's not a statistic. It's 76 people. 25 of them were children. All of them lost their lives because an entire community placed blind, fatal trust in a single man.
So how on earth did this happen? Well, Koresh's followers were often people looking for answers, trying to heal what are described as wounded identities. They handed over all of their critical judgment to him. And the tragedy got even worse because the FBI just didn't get it. They saw a standard criminal, not a messiah figure with devoted followers. So their aggressive tactics just proved to the group that they were being persecuted, making everything worse.
And this brings us right to our doorstep, to the modern world. We've gone from trusting priests and prophets to trusting algorithms and AI.
But the question is this new kind of trust any less blind? This idea of uncalibrated trust is so important. We tend to see AI as this impartial genius just because it's super fast and can process tons of data. We trust what it tells us without really thinking about the hidden biases it might have learned from that data. Like a hiring AI that learns to be biased against women because it was trained on decades of biased hiring decisions. This is the new frontier for the naive mistake.
So, we've seen the terrible consequences, but why? Why are we so bad at spotting this? To get that, we have to look inside our own heads. Turns out, our brains have these little glitches, these cognitive biases that can make us prime targets for manipulation.
What's crazy is how these all work together to trip us up. It starts with confirmation bias. We want to believe someone is trustworthy, so we only look for stuff that proves us right. Then the halo effect kicks in. Wow, he's so charismatic, he must be honest too. Then comes emotional reasoning. It just feels right to trust them. And finally, that powerful human need to belong can make us ignore a mountain of red flags just so we can be part of the group.
Okay, we've spent a lot of time on the problem, so let's talk about the solution. If naivete is the problem, then critical thought is the armor we need to protect ourselves. This is all about building an active intellectual defense system.
I absolutely love this definition. Healthy skepticism isn't about being a cynic who distrusts everyone and everything. It's the exact opposite of blind trust. It's an intellectual immune system. It's a way of thinking that actively filters what you hear, questions the default assumptions, and asks for proof before you decide to believe something.
And here's the thing, this is a skill. It's something you have to practice and cultivate. It's not enough to just memorize a bunch of facts. A real education, the kind that actually protects you from being manipulated, teaches you how to think, how to take apart an argument, spot the flaws, and build your own conclusions based on solid reasoning.
So, this is what it all boils down to. The answer isn't to just stop trusting people. I mean, that would be an incredibly lonely and paranoid way to live. The real key is finding that balance. Be open, but don't be a pushover. Trust, but verify. Be willing to give people your confidence, but never, ever give up your own critical judgment.
And so I'll leave you with this one question to think about. In your own life, in your relationships, in the news you consume, in the technology you use, where is your trust placed? Is it a trust that's been earned and checked, or is it blind? It's a question that's definitely worth asking. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.